Welcome to the George Coaching Podcast. I'm Jimmy George and I'm here with Paula George. In each episode, we explore practical insights around nutrition, movement, stress, recovery, and mindset, along with real conversations about growth, leadership, and creating a healthy and meaningful lifestyle. Whether you're navigating a new chapter, refining your performance, or simply wanting to feel better in your body and life, then you're in the right place. But before we start, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us wherever you are listening and join our mailing list by going to our website, georgecoaching.com. Let's get into today's conversation. So, Paula, today we are talking about health, leadership, and the next chapter of your life. So, who is this podcast for?
Well, that's a great question. And when you posed that question to me, I sort of had to think about it. And really, when I thought hard about it, this podcast could be for anybody. It could be for professionals, busy working people. They've got a lot of responsibility, time poor. They might want better clarity on seeking a little bit more balance in their life and um, getting health without going to having to go to extremes or having to rush it all into one time a week. It could be for athletes, active people wanting to have resilience and longevity in their athletic careers or in their activity endeavors. They might care about their recovery, their mindset, and being able to perform long term. And then it could even be people going into retirement who they have more time on their hands and they might want to work out how to keep healthy, active, mentally sharp, having purpose in their life. So they're just three groups that I thought about, but it could also be for busy parents with young children. It could be grandparents who are still working, who have grandchildren. It could be for students who are under a lot of pressure to study and keep themselves healthy. So I'm sure I've missed out a lot of other groups of people there, but I see that what we're aiming to talk about here could be applicable for anybody who's got an interest.
Well, I think you've done a great summary there of the sort of people that might be interested in this podcast, but I guess we'll only know once we dive into it. That's a great overview of the people that we've worked with over the many years, and this is our 20th year of doing business. We've also been sport for a very long time, but we're celebrating 20 years in 2026. So we could firmly say that we've worked with quite a few people in many different categories throughout them years. So now we're going to talk about our philosophy. We've got a category of people who hopefully you will enjoy this podcast, but our philosophy and why it's our philosophy. So again, it's not a question and answer. We're going to get into some conversation in a minute, but Paula, give us an overview of philosophy.
I think as we've grown over the years, our philosophy has changed. I think it has developed into something that is a lot more holistic to where we were when we started out. I believe we now see that everything's connected to everything. And in whatever you do in any area of your life, there will be an action and a reaction in other areas of your life. It's about looking at the whole picture. So when we work with athletes, we always look at the whole picture. We look at their lifestyle. We look at other things that they have to do in their lives. And we look at their history, all sorts of various factors that feed into a more holistic approach that we can bring to their training. And I think we agree that improvement's more than just training. Improvement is in all areas of our life.
It's definitely something that we've evolved as we've gone along that approach. And I, for one, have definitely learnt that through lots of experience as well. And I remember, sport teaches lots of lessons. We both got a background in competitive sport at high levels. And I definitely tried lots of things when I was a sportsman. And one that really springs to mind is something that I was doing when I was uncoached, and that was following kind of the recommendations of just word of mouth about how to train. And one of them was that volume of training mattered. And I trained so much volume and it wasn't holistic at all. It was very one-dimensional and it really, really affected my other areas of my health. So it affected my body weight, it affected my nutrition, it affected me mentally. I was exhausted and it was because I'd just gone down one route. I think that's a little example of where holism and being holistic in your approach matters, because if you're just listening to one side of a story, you're not going to get a balanced view of where you need to be at. If I had have considered that, I probably wouldn't have gone down that route because it did knock me for six. It was an exhausting approach. Now I'm very much into making sure that my life is balanced, that I recover, that I pick my battles when I train, and I try to make sure that that is the case with the people that we work with as well.
Yeah, I think that's it's very important that we learn through our own experiences. And I think some of the biggest learning comes from making mistakes and finding that the approach that you thought or heard or, seemed to be popular at the time didn't work for you. And I think that's the other thing about holism is that it is an individual thing, that what works for somebody else who says this is the way to train, that may not work for you because you're an individual. And I think that's something else that we have learned is really, really important when we're working with our clients, that they're individuals and they all come with different needs. And I see it as our job to find out what those needs are and to bring the most holistic approach to helping them with those needs. And it's interesting you say about, the way we used to train. I certainly trained in a way that didn't serve me very well back in the past. And I was probably training for the wrong reasons. And I think it's taken me many years to learn, that you can train in a much more balanced way. And yeah, so
Well, it's interesting because we both come from sport, and sport has got lots of lessons in it. So we will refer to sport a lot in this podcast. However, this isn't just about sport. It is about lifestyle and about the lifestyle that it's led us to lead and them experiences, because sport is very extreme. It pushes you to a limit. And sometimes when you go to a limit, you learn some lessons pretty quickly. And we won't keep referring to sport all the way through. We promise everybody that, but we will be using it as we've learned a lot, and that's where our experience is coming from. And then as we've gone on in our careers, as we've come away from being so competitive, we now study, and we are now very much into studying the art of coaching and how to work with people. So we hope that we explain our approach there, our philosophy. And the title is this podcast is Health to Leadership in the Next Chapter. So now we're going to jump into health. And why health? Why are we focusing in on health? What's your thoughts on that?
health's everything. In my humble opinion, if you don't have your health, then it's very difficult to enjoy life fully and operate as efficiently and as optimally as you would like to. And health covers all sorts of things. We have our pillars, which is sort of exercise and movement and nutrition, recovery, mindset, mindfulness, or sort of mental well-being. And I think health covers all of those things.
And there's no downside to working on your health. I don't think anybody should ever, in my opinion, and I'm sure you share the same, that you should never stop working on your health. And there's many areas to health. There's your physical health, there's your nutritional health, there's psychological health. There's all sorts of areas to be working on, because there is no downside to doing it. It's a really important thing, the gift that we have of our body, and to respect the body and to respect everything that comes with is so important. So why wouldn't you want to work on your health? And there's a lot out there, isn't there? There's lots of information, and health has become very trendy as well. And what can health be defined as? I guess there is a definition out there, but how we are going to approach it through our podcast and through the episodes we're going to be putting out is that it's going to be what we have learned and the things that we have done with clients and the things that we do for ourselves to improve our health. And we're not perfect. We put our hands up. We all face challenges. We all have things that we need to work on, but we hope that this will give you some really, really good insights as to why we're focusing on health when we're looking at improving your lifestyle and improving your day-to-day living.
Yeah, and the other thing is we have to be realistic about the fact that in the UK, we have a growing aging population, and preserving your health and working on your health into older age is incredibly important. I'm very, very privileged to work with a number of people in their 70s and their 80s who are really committed to looking after their health into their sort of later decades. I'm in awe of them. I'm inspired by them, that they take such an important view on looking after their health, and in all areas of their health. They're still seeking answers to improve their nutrition and their movement into their 70s and 80s. And I think as our population, our aging population continues to grow, I believe that is a sector of our population that will be increasingly seeking to find answers to keeping healthy.
It's a great example, yeah. And I work with some people in their 70s, and also work with some people in their 20s. As I've worked with quite a lot of people over the years, you can definitely see how the way they behave over a year, particularly, and with you in a year is a short period of time, how that year can affect them later on down the line. And I'm sure some of my clients in their 70s would agree. We'll have to ask them. I'm not going to put words into their mouth, but they would agree that things they were doing 20 years ago has affected them up to the day they're in. Health does have a knock-on effect all the way through your life. And if we take injuries or we take illnesses, they do affect you for your life. So I think that what you've brought up there, Paul, is a really great example of it's never too late. It's never too late to be seeking answers.
Absolutely. On the, talking about sort of seeking answers, I also wonder if the issue for a lot of people, and we see it as well, that there is so much information. I wonder if people are just confused by the absolute amount of information available on social media around health. There's such a lot of it. And I wonder that, A, they're confused. So I think there's a number of things going on there that connected to health and the ability to be able to maintain and improve your health.
Absolutely, yeah. And we are in the information age where there is so much information, and not long ago it wasn't there. It was you would go to the library, or you would go to a leader, or you go to a club or something to get that information, and it would be handed down from generation to generation, and that is how it would be imparted. Now it can just be on your phone as soon as you open it at a random part of the day, and when you're not ready to see it or to receive that information. We're going to be going into technology in a big way later on in the podcast, and we're going to be going on about information a lot further down the line. But that is a massive part of the challenges people face with their health. And another thing I just want to pick up on is what you said about in the UK, because I listen to podcasts that are from people from around the world, and it's great because we are in a global world now. You can get the information from anywhere and anybody, anytime you want. But it is relevant that your climate, which is really different in different parts of the world, has a big impact on how people's health is, but also on their needs of how to seek solution for their health is as well. We're in a very wet winter at the moment in the UK, and it can be very dark. It can be very grey as well. And you can definitely see people changing their mood, which is changing how they're feeling and it's changing their health, literally because of the weather.
Oh, absolutely. We're not immune to that. We always feel happier on a sunny day, but it does affect what you can do and how you can do it. And if it's cold and wet outside and it's dark in the northern hemisphere countries in the winter, it's difficult to get out. There's safety issues around visibility and temperature control, and so it is different. And I'm not doing a woe is me for living in the UK, but you do have to take into account when you're planning your own health strategies. It is going to be different northern to southern hemisphere. Vitamin D, for example, in the northern hemisphere, we know that the majority of people are going to be deficient in vitamin D during the winter months, not through any fault of their own. It's just our climate, and it's the lack of daylight sunshine, and probably in warmer climes where they have a lot more daylight hours around the year and a lot more sunshine, then their vitamin D levels will probably reflect that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it just made me think of our friends in Australia who have the opposite challenge. They have the challenge of the sun and of the heat and of too much of it. So it's something we'll really get into further down the line in our podcast and in our conversations. So the next part of it is why leadership. And I thought leadership is an interesting question, and it kind of links to what we've just been talking about. We chose the word leadership because there is a lot of people online. There's lots of people out there with a voice, which is fantastic. We want everybody to be heard. But the question we have for yourself is are you picking a leader that is guiding you in a direction that you want to go? And when I say a leader, you can follow anybody on social media now, and you can see their content, and they are leading you in a certain way. Paula, what do you look for in a leader and in leadership?
When I think of a leader, I would think of someone who is honest, open, acts with integrity, has your best interests, wants to see you improve, wants to see you flourish. So they're things that, off the top of my head, that I would sort of think about with the leader. Yeah, I think that's what I think about.
Yeah, it's I put you a bit on the spot there. I think other things that I would connect to is I agree with all of them. I think it's connection as well. You connect with the message that they have, but also that they can back up that their leadership is from somewhere. I really think I really believe in that the leadership is coming from a place of they really want you to succeed and they really want to guide you with the best intent. I've had some handful of leaders through my life that have been massively influential on me. They've shaped who I am. And it's really important that I got shaped into the person that I wanted to be and not shaped into something that somebody else wanted us to be. One of them is my first coach, who very sadly lost end of last year. And he was a massive influence on me turning myself from a wannabe sports person into an athlete. He transformed me, and he was my leader. I called him my coach, but he led me. He showed me so much leadership in how to behave as an athlete and how to behave as a person. He was very much influencing who I was as a person. Taught me lots about respect. He taught me about time management. He talked to me about cleanliness. It was so detailed what he taught me, and I wanted that leadership. I wanted them lessons.
Yeah, it's a great example, and I know how much you thought about your first cycle coach. And what sprang to mind as you were talking about him was being authentic. So coming from an authentic place, and I think you said they genuinely want you to do well. They've genuinely got your best interests at heart, and that authenticity of the message that they bring and the message that they're trying to deliver to people that they're trying to help. I think if you're being led by somebody who is, I don't know, constantly trying to take money off you, for example, and you're not seeing much return on the investment, or you don't feel like they really care about what they're delivering, then that for me wouldn't be true leadership. I think,
I
and
agree.
also just going the extra mile, I think is good leadership.
Absolutely. So it's something for you to consider where you're getting your information from, and we hope that we show you great leadership with what we're doing here. And we're going to move on to the next chapter of life, which you can read into that sentence whatever you want to and however you want to. The next chapter of life for me is, do you know where you're heading, and have you got a plan about where you're heading? And that's not necessarily just about health, but we're putting the spotlight on health just to set the tone for where we go with our conversations. But it can be all encompassing into every part of your life. It could be money, it could be career, it could be your physical health, it could be family. But the next chapter of your life is something that we wanted to go through, because we're very much into understanding where your goals are, what your objectives are, and then working out your own path of how you're going to get there.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I actually wrote down a quote from Stephen Covey, who wrote the 7 Effective Steps of Highly Efficient People. And there's a quote from the book, and I wrote it down, and it's, if the ladder is not leaning against the right wall, every step we take just takes us to the wrong place faster. And that sort of links from the leadership, because um, wall that we lean our ladder up against could be connected to the leadership or the path that we follow. And then taking those steps up that wrong ladder is how efficiently you can follow a plan, and you don't want to be going too far up the ladder to find that you're actually on the wrong wall that is the best for you. And it links into the next chapter, because you want to make sure that every step you take is taking you in the direction that you want to be in. And thinking about the next chapter, I have a client who I've worked with for many, many years. In fact, he was one of my very first physical clients. And he came to me, well, it's got to be over 20 years ago now, saying that he had a new young family and he wanted to be able to play football with them into his older age. And from that, so that was the goal that we the long-term goal that we worked towards. But out of that, he became a runner, he became a keen cyclist, and he took on a whole different sort of athletic path, which is still serving him, still into his 70s, he's still cycling. He's now a grandfather, and he has been able to get outside and play with not only his sons, but in the near future will be out there playing with his grandson. So he was clearly thinking about his next one chapter, but that's now led him into being able to plan for the next chapter, which is being a grandfather and still remaining healthy So I think having the next chapter in mind is really, really crucial.
Yeah, I love that. I love that story from the Seven Habits book. It's a great book. It's a big book. It's taken me a while to get through it, but it's a great example of where the ladder leans. So we hope them 3 topics have given you some food for thought: health, leadership, and the next chapter of life. You can see kind of how we're linking the 3 together. Next, we're going to go on to a little bit more of what's going on with us, and what's coming up in the future. So, Paula, you've masterminded this next part. Tell us what we're doing online this year.
I've been sort of forming this idea for a little while, an idea of bringing, or just through conversations and learning what our clients are most concerned about. What are the biggest concerns health wise that they might have? And I did a sort of bit of broader research as well to find out what the main health concerns of people in the UK currently are. And from that, I wanted to create a community where people can bring those concerns and talk to other people, realize that they're not alone, that these concerns are across the population, but also for us to help them. That's our job. That's what we're passionate about. That's what we love to do. And just to be able to help people in a broader sense and in a bigger way, rather than just having a conversation with one client. Let's help more people. And so I came up with the idea of doing a year-long course, and it's based online. So there's Zoom calls that anybody can attend, and they're covering all of these topics that we identified. There's one a month, so I didn't want it to be too onerous on people. Once a month, I would hope is not too much for people to tune into. They're not too long either. So the first one we did, I think we sort of presented the information for about 20 minutes, and then we opened up the floor, and we had some great conversations. And the feedback we had was that people went away with a lot to think about. And that was just our first sort of introduction Zoom meeting. And we've got eight more, I believe, 9 more to just help people with their concerns and to help people have a strategy for the next chapter in everyday life, just to improve their health and their sense of well-being.
When you told us about the concept, I just thought it was just a fantastic idea, and it's really great call. There's no pressure if anybody doesn't want to talk on them; they just want to just listen and observe. But the first one is very interactive at the same time, so it's perfect for anybody that wants to learn. They can also access them retrospectively if they contact us. But ideally, we would love them to be there live with us. The chance to actually it's not that often you get to be live with us, so it's quite a chance to actually sit and be there with us. So, what is the next one that's coming up on the wellness series?
So on the 4th of March, we've got a Zoom call that is titled "Maintaining Energy with a Busy Schedule."
I'm
So
sure that
it's
that topic is going to appeal to a lot of people.
and we're not immune to any of this stuff. We run a busy schedule by choice, and we are constantly having to work on maintaining our energy. And let's be honest, Jimmy, sometimes we do really well at it, and sometimes we don't do so well at it. And I don't see any point in not being honest about that we face these challenges as much as anybody else. We are committed to working on striking the balance and optimizing our health in all of our areas. So I think that this title and this topic might strike a chord with a number of people.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it. You're absolutely right. Maintaining energy with a busy schedule. I need to be there. I'm gonna learn a lot by being on the call myself as well. So yeah, looking forward to that one. Next coming up is George Coaching Racing Team, GCRT. And this was a interesting one for us because we formerly, those of you that knew us before we were George Coaching, we were called VO. And we started off with a small group of athletes who we registered the name, and they could compete under VO2. Then it grew into a club, and then it built up. And then we decided that it just wasn't for us to be running a club and everything that it came with us, the situation that we sort of found us in. So we decided to part ways, leave it alone, and just work with our athletes. And then we had a little conversation about whether we should reestablish some sort of look for ourselves when we're out training. We have a brand, and we love branding. We love to tell people about ourselves. And then one of your dear athletes said something to us. Paula, do you want to share what he said to us?
Well, we'd been talking about the concept of maybe just giving ourselves a little training identity, and we said, well, we're the Georges, so why don't we just call it George Coaching? And we were out cycling with one of my clients, and he was cycling with you. So I was cycling behind, I didn't even hear the conversation. And he said to you, "Come on, Jimmy, when are you going to create George Coaching?" Or something along those lines. I mean, you know, you're probably better telling the story. And Jimmy, you just turned around to me and said, "Paula, you're not going to believe this." And we just felt that that was the confirmation that we needed to actually go ahead and form George Coaching. So it was like there was a ping from the universe, just confirming our idea.
There was a massive ping, and he's been a client of yours for a really long time. He's a really well experienced athlete, and he knows us through and through. So have him say that to us was the big ping that we needed. So it's called George Coach Racing Team. It's for clients that we coach to give them. A lot of them are unattached, and a lot of people that we work with train on their own and they race on their own. They're not in clubs, they're busy people, and they aren't able to have that identity. So the concept of it is that it's giving them some community within our circle. And the community is that they've got us. That we also have some training sessions together where everybody that we work with come together. They can do run sessions, flex sessions, swim sessions, bike sessions. And we've got some clothing from them from, I would say, the best clothing manufacturer there is, No Pins, which are down in Devon, and they are excellent at stitching lycra, which read into that whatever you want. They also do some fantastic designs, and we have traditionally had the three colours for our branding, which is green, black and white, but we decided that it was time to come away from the green. And we put this into one of our emails, our reason why that wasn't. We picked green originally because we liked the green. It was nature. It was connection to nature. It was like our third color. But we decided that this time, with the reinvention and the rebranding of a team, that we would change the color. The color is red, and the reason we went for red is one, because it stands out, and particularly when you're cycling, if you're wearing the kit and you're on the road, you want to be seen, and it's really important for your safety that you can get seen. So we've now got red as our accent color, and the cycle kit, you'll know it when you see it. But the whole point of it is that it's visible for our athletes when they're out on the road and when they're training. So we're looking forward to getting our kit. It's going to look great, and our athletes will be competing in it. But the other great thing about it is that it's super fast, which I know our athletes will love. So there's certain range that is super quick. So when they're swimming through the water, they're going to be gliding through the water. They're going to be really aerodynamic. And there's another kit, which is casual kit, like we're wearing in the video, which are hoodies and t-shirts, and it's the casual range as well. So anyway, we're really pleased to have put George Coach Race Team together, and we're calling it GCRT. So we're coming towards the end of this first episode. In the next episode, we're going to be talking about nutrition simplified, what it actually matters for energy, longevity, and performance. So we're going to be covering it in as much detail as we feel is appropriate, but we'd still welcome you to come and join us on the Health and Wellness series as well. So before we wrap up the podcast, any other thoughts for our listeners?
No other thoughts, but excited for this year. It's Chinese New Year today. And I was thinking, as you were talking about the red on the kit, it's the year of the fire horse. So there's a lot of red in that. And I believe it is also lucky for the Chinese New Year to wear elements of red on your clothing. So it's appropriate that we're kind of talking about red kit on the Chinese New Year. So I want to wish a happy Chinese New Year to anybody who celebrates. And yeah, that's all I had to add.
It's a great link. And I'm learning a lot about that this year as well. So thank you for joining us. We hope today's conversation gave you something to think about and to apply to your life. If you've enjoyed this episode, then don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we would love for you to share it with somebody you think it would be useful for them to listen to as well. You'll find links to everything we've talked about in the show notes and on the descriptions of the video and of the audio. Thanks again for being here. We appreciate you and your time, and we will see you next time.